I'm Ruth Wallace, I'm the Director of the Law Institute, and I'm very pleased to see everyone here today. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we meet today, the Larrakia people, elders past and present, and also to acknowledge traditional owners who are here with us today. It's an absolute honour to be able to introduce Linda, who is one of the first people that I met here on the Casuarina campus and really has helped, I think, the university in many ways think differently about the way we teach, the way we research, what's important for our future. And you've now challenged the ARC to think about the sorts of things they might research and how they might work. You do that in a lot of other areas as well. And I think that's a really important part of your role here. It's something that we don't often speak of, but we'd be so much poorer if we didn't have you here to do that. And we're just really looking forward to hearing about how the project's going. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Ruth. Wow. Usually I have a, can I turn that around? I'll have to put in my glasses. Usually have a screen in front so I can watch it. Yes, it is a bit different. Okay. Thank you, Ruth, for that. It's been a very interesting journey coming into, after I think 28 years of teaching and probably 10 years of teaching undergrads, and then going into full-time research, which is something that I think I should have done years ago, because I'm running out of time to do the things that is important for me to be doing with all my family and extended family on country. And with all the old people passing away quite quickly now, a lot of that information is going with it. So I'd just like to acknowledge the ancestors of this country. You have been Nerangango, Benibindinal, Buditozo. So, Nango, Larrakia. So, one of the challenging things for me in terms of doing research was to think about creative ways to work with all my family. And that started off with a PhD, and that's when Ruth and I were located over in the Faculty of Psych back then in the School of Education. And it was introducing Indigenous knowledge into higher ed to pre-service teacher education students, and embedding the Mirwana and Wilkuma theory into that work. And this is a Mirwana, the plant, and it's a very important plant for our ceremonies, which I'll talk about a bit more. And I think in terms of research, Hamali played an important part in when I finished PhD, to actually get me registered with an RMS. Can you remember that?
Yes.
Yes. So that was, and then Diane Shakovich and I got our first ARC grant in 2007. So that was really the taster for me. Although I'd done research earlier at Batchelor Institute in the 90s on different things. And I think a bit of background is about myself, I should say, as a Makmak person. I was involved in land claims for the Finniss River area, and also over the last 10 years with native title claims as well. So for the Litchfield Park area, Batchelor and to whatnot. So all this is quite important for new ways of royal ceremonies. And in July, I did a workshop at Twin Hill Station, and I called it the Kurunja Forum because the Maranoga name for that region is Kurunju, which means paperbark number 2. Nambu is paperbark number 1. Now how do I move that along? Where's Bindi? Joanna, I should get you to come up. Yes, please. Can you do that? It's not doing that. Oh, okay. So thank you, Joanna. So here's Darwin, so we're about southwest of here. Kurunju is about there. And Daly River is further down. So I've told you a bit about the background. So the overview of the ceremonies started with my mother's passing, and the lead up to that was a number of years of being instructed by her of what she expected for her funeral. So that's what we did. This is telling that story about what happened. So after my mum passed away in 2007, we did the smoking at Bachelor, and then we did the funeral at Nunju, which is Wongai Falls in Litchfield National Park, and then we did the Midgard burial, which is platform burial, and then we did the couple or burn rag ceremony at Mowing, which is behind Bachelor. And this all fits in with the archiving plans that I'm working with Linda Barwick and Alan Barrett, and I'll talk a bit more about that. Technology, Linda. So this is dedicated to my Alla, my mother, and all the Wallakunda who helped us. And this is my mum dancing down in Canberra to Alan Barrett. Then he actually first was welcomed by our Wanga men, ceremony men, to sing Wanga with them. And so my mum got up and danced, and then she instructed us to get up and dance with her as well. So that was at a big dinner down at the NIAXIS conference. So basically, some of the ceremonies that my mother had wanted done, like I belong to the Wanga ceremony, which is for this region, and then she said, I want it like old times when we were growing up. We grew up with Wanga, Lidga and Chamba ceremonies, and they're very different, and they're sung in different languages. So Wanga is mainly Marachaban and Maramu. Lidga is mainly Maranga, and Chamba is Murampata. So very different languages. And so those ceremonies my mum had instructed to come together and bring that ceremony back to our country. So video, audio, photographs were done by a number of people, and they now are embedded in the records, the archival records that are deposited here at CDU, or will be, and at Paradisic in Sydney at the Music Conservatorium, and at IATSIS. So Linda Barwick and Alan have worked with us, well, Alan since the 80s, and recording the Wanga ceremonies, and Linda Barwick since about the 90s. She's been working with us and has been helping with archiving. And it's, they're amazing people to work with. And I don't say that about a lot of people that I've worked with, but they are truly amazing. The amount of knowledge and skills that they have in terms of knowing how to work with people out in the community, to respectfully approach them about recording a lot of the secret, sacred knowledge of people that, of course, that I can't always display in the work that I do. Because a lot of it is very gender specific. So my main task is to preserve and document those things that I can. And going into the archives, I think this year and last year spent a lot of time in the archives here in Darwin, and spent 2 months down in Melbourne, going through the Jesuit archives, going through the museums in Melbourne and Canberra and Sydney. I still have to go back to Sydney University to go through Elkin's information, which is just brilliant. But, yes, but I'm running out of time. Yeah. So we got to publish in a book 2014, and that's got, we talk about the Nirvana and Ultima philosophy in that, and the way that the information is slowly filtered down, and I've related that to the process of research for Indigenous research, how bleaching out the toxins of the cycad nut, which is cyanide, and I'll talk about that a bit more further on. But it's finally published, other than in my PhD and my Aboriginal knowledge narratives. So Nirvana and Murkuma. Nirvana is a cycad, Panangu is a cycad fruit, nuts are used to make flatbread, the lawa for ceremony, and it needs special processing, Murkuma, to remove the toxins. And the Nirvana knowledge, that's the painting, one of the many paintings that I did while I was doing the PhD, to help me articulate the Indigenous knowledge and the Western academic knowledge. And to do that, I had the support of my mother to help me to get the story straight, or to get the stories right. And so here is the Indigenous knowledge, here's the Western knowledge. These are the hands coming together on a handshake. And this is the female cycad and the male cycad, and creating the new knowledge. And down here it's a bit red, and it slowly goes up into something that's going to produce fruit or better outcomes for Indigenous people. And that's basically what my PhD is about. Oops. So, they're the Murkuma stages. I won't spend too long on those, but it's the filtering process, and it takes 8 to 10 days to filter out all the cyanide, and it's quite a milky colour, and when the water's clear, you know that it's ready to prepare and roast and cook it, and then distribute it in small quantities, because if you get that part wrong, it can be fatal. And I liken that to if you don't get the higher education right for students, they drop out of the system. So we have to get that right somewhere along the line. It's working slowly. Important places. So my mum passed away at Darwin Hospital, and I had to travel up to get my brother, cousin who's now passed away, to be the Master of Ceremonies. And what we did was we coordinated this whole region. It's a 10-hour trip from Darwin to Wodai. And we coordinated all these communities that you can see on here to come to Pandayal and to Bachelor to do those ceremonies that we talked about, or that I talked about. So 2007, there's the outline of what had happened from the burial point of view. And then 2009, we did the final mortuary rites. Usually it takes 12 months, but because there were certain things that happened for my brother, cousin, and he had family members that had passed away, and there were young men's ceremonies down at Big River, and my uncle, who's a Liturga songman, couldn't come, so we postponed it to the next year, 2009, to do that. So that was okay. We did the couple, and the couple is the final mortuary rites to send your loved ones off to the Wallumbilla. So it's a very deep and moving experience. So this is the Wangak region, so it sort of comes right around there, or down to Paradale actually, up there. Jumbo is in this region, and Liturga is in around, actually that should be down here, but I couldn't fit it, so I'll put it up there. So it should be around Palumba. So ceremonies, people and language. The Wanga is sung by Charles Tungiang, and there were lots of people involved. I'll keep going because I'm going to run out of time. Have we got sound on this? This is at Pundale. These are all the senior ceremony people from all the different areas. That's Andy, he's one of our Wanga men. I think you can see me just there with that cap on. So these are all my family. This is my Uncle Captain, and he sings the Liturga songs. And all these songs are about helping the spirit of the deceased to transcend. Keep going a little further. They might blend into each other, is the only thing, the songs. I'm not very good at the technical embedding aspects of this. So that's a Liturga song, and it's about the actual couple burn rag ceremony. So these are all the immediate family of the deceased, and these are our visitors over here, and there's all of us over here. And these are my two daughters with their auntie. And see, my niece was laughing here. This was her first major ceremony that she'd been to, and first for Chloe and Emily as well. And my brother, cousin, who's master of ceremony, had Woomera and spears, and he warned them that this was not a laughing matter. And she thought that was even more funny. I said, don't you laugh, we're going to get speared. And she said, what? And she quite stern afterwards. Yeah. She hadn't realised the seriousness of this particular ceremony. So there's the, I was telling you about the filtering process. There's the filtering process. So here I've got, so in the past, and here's year one of doing the preparation and sorting of all the archival materials that I'm gathering. That's sort of blended into the year two as well. And I think it's going to blend into year three. But as I'm going, I'm attending conferences, and as I'm doing that, I'm placing deposits of information with Linda Barwick at Paradisic, and working with her and the team there to make sure that's going to be recorded. Started talking to Katrina about developing a website here with Northern Institute to put a lot of this information in there, because that's one of the milestones I've identified in the project. So that younger people in the Maranoga clan can access that information and get a lot more confident about listening to the songs and becoming familiar with it. now what we're finding is that a lot of the kids are part, their family, their grandmothers were part of the stolen generation, so that they haven't grown up with what I've grown up with, but to be able to share and disseminate that information with them and other Australians is something that's really been a focus of when we did the rejoinder, wasn't it, Molly? That we had to put that argument up there, that it wasn't just for this little group, that it was for all Australians to access the public knowledge, so that it helps Australians understand Indigenous culture a lot better. So this is a more in-depth way of looking at what we do with the Palangul and putting it into a context that's relevant to the research project itself, in terms of getting all the materials together and choosing and sorting what I'm going to use and not use, and then applying the Indigenous knowledge metadata, and then starting to put it into the staging repositories, which could be the Wuratadi, which is the billabong on the back of the river, where you soak the nuts, and then you can start to put different segments up, and that's why I think the website is a useful tool to describe this process here. And then the filtering of that is when people go on there and access whatever materials they want to use, doing their annotations or excerpts of what they want to extract for their own purposes. And these are the secret information that other people won't be able to access without permission, and they'll go straight into the IATSIS repository. But the other information will go up on the website, and that's where it becomes much more refined. And then it will eventually go into the IATSIS. You all know what IATSIS is? Yeah. We're all good at acronyms, aren't we? So stage 2 was, so that was stage 1. That happened back in 2007, 8, 9. And a lot of that was undertaken in the early childhood ARC that I initially got, because it talks about how our lives are cyclical. So, and when we put the seeds up on the platform, it's recycled back into the earth, and then we put people back into their final resting place. And for my mum, it's Kalharin, and on that painting up there, where you see the centre, that is Kalharin, which is our white eagle breeding place. So when I look at that painting, or when I was doing that painting, it's an aerial view of my country. So this is passing on knowledge. And these kids here, their parents and his grandmother, or their grandmother, she was part of the stolen generation. DAA actually came out and took them from their mothers out at Bamboo Creek Tin Mine, which is in Redfield Park. And this family just recently come back and being taken into care of the clan. And this is my brother and his son. And so I call these kids Nana. They're all my nanas. And this is my niece. And here they're being taught how to do wonder for the first time. So it's really important that, for this research to go on, but also their friends are coming out and learning how to do these things. So it's really been good for them to build up their own self-identity as Matlatlabang. And the paint that we put on it is part of our signature about being Marama and White Eagle. So here we all are. So this is Deborah Bird-Rose, who was the anthropologist for us back in the early 90s. This is Linda Barwick, Alan Marrett, and Reuben Brown, who is doing research. He's an ethnomusicologist working with the Goulburn Island, Manyari and Injalaka ceremonies. And Will is Debbie's brother who's come out from America, and it's his first Indigenous experience, and he's a school teacher and he's going to see if he can get some funding to bring some Indigenous people from Canada to come out next year. So that was one of the benefits, or impact, as Ruth says. So here we are painting up. And Roy and Nicole, this is their first ceremony they've been to and taken part of. Same with Sorella and Henry. They're all sisters and brothers. All wondered up, ready to go. That's Lucy. She loved it, she was hard to paint. She couldn't stay still. So here we are all dressed up. And the ceremony men, so the men are under one tent and the women are under another tent. And here's some of the Wanga men from Belluin and from Balgal. And this young fella here, his family's from Parago and Nabidi. So here they are all dancing. And young is that Jojo and Mikey learning how to kick the sand. So first they were a bit embarrassed about going out to learn to dance, and then all the men met and got them and said, come on, we're going to teach you how to do this. So there they all are. Busting the ground. So I had this is I've been working with Warrawee on another project, the FRDC, Fisheries Development Research Project. And when I went out to Warrawee back in 2013 and connected back with some of the people out there, they said, your grandfathers used to come out here and do ceremony for us. This is back in the 40s. And I said, yes, through my oral history I knew that as well. But I didn't know what the ceremonies were. But in July I found out what those ceremonies were. And so I had Global Headquarters come out on a Tuesday to record that, and I've got some of that to show you later. I did have it on before at the start. But they're the Manyari Injalaka dancers from Goulburn Island that have come back to reconnect our songlines, our historical songlines. And that's the first time for 20 years. So it was very significant in terms of that happening, but before that it was back in the 40s. And this is a women's welly tent. And these are the ladies doing the mermaid dance. And Lucy was just loving this dancing. So this is the first time, here we go, Beatrice was our cook for the week, but she's a Tasmanian Indigenous woman, and it's the first ceremony that she participated in. So, and that's her daughter, and that's Muddy's. And she was so pleased that she made the decision to return to the Territory just to be part of that for the week. This is David Mummaloo from Goulburn Island, senior ceremony man. This is a giant dance that traces back our song lines. So, and it's a very special dance. So here we did our presentations and talked about the significance of it, of what we did. This is my mum's younger sister who coaches me about my responsibilities and cultural obligations. Very interesting. Yeah. But gifting is always an important part of what we do. And so I presented this material that looks very similar to the cycad to Mum Yilngi. And Linda Barwick had gifts there to present to everybody of all the wonder songs that have been sung in the region, which is really, really useful for my website. To put that up so that people can listen to the audio recordings of all the songs sung by different songmen since the 80s. Deborah Rose was gifting Country of the Heart books to Colin and Daniel, and they said, can we have a book like this too? All these people keep asking me to make books with them, and I go, oh my goodness, there's so much work to do. That's why I said I should have started years ago, researching. And when David and Jenny, this is Jenny Munro, David's wife, when they were looking through the book, the ceremony that's actually in the book was the one that they decided that they were going to do with my nephew Henry and Zerelda, which is the Mumwurrung ceremony for the start of the initiation for becoming young men and young women. And I just was blown away. And that photograph in that book was taken about 60 years ago. So it's given me goosebumps. But any recordings prior to that by non-Indigenous people, they recorded the ceremonies, the Wangaluvia and Chandra ceremonies, as corroborees.
As what?
Corroborees.
Oh.
So there's no specific names for any of the ceremonies. Corroborees. That was really helpful. Not. So this is a whole family here from Golden Island. Mum and Dad, 2 sons, and Reuben's daughter, Louise. So Alan and Linda, who I admire. Yeah. So this is my brother, he's the ceremony man for us now, and he can sing all the wonder songs in the region because of his genealogical links to each of the country that he sings the songs for. And I just thought, wow, it's so amazing, absolutely amazing. If we had some other song in there, they wouldn't have been able to do the same because they're not linked the same. So when he saw these, he got very, very happy, and then he got a little bit sentimental, as we all did. And they're just enjoying a quiet moment. They're looking at all the songs and the photos on the front of each of those wonder songmen. Here we are doing Mangali's Nana's Law, Songs and Stories. So this was a separate ceremony for just for the women, and to do a little ceremony for Lucy. So Mum Yilngi, Ati, and Jenny Mangalore. And here we're just doing some I'm teaching Nicole and Zeralda some of our women's songs. And here is Bulkine. So in the background there's Litchfield Park, and this is out on the floodplain. And yes, we went hunting. Oh, my brother went hunting with some of the other men and came back with magpie geese. The kids look really intrigued, don't they? But yeah, so sitting under the Leichhardt tree out on the plain. So they were very pleased to get magpie geese. And here we are back at the camp, looking very relaxed. And that's Lucy's first taste of magpie geese. And that's Nicole's first goose that she's plucked and gutted and boned out to butterfly stake it on the coals. She was very pleased. She said, "I'm a keeper." And there's Beatrice's beautiful damper. And there we all are again. So the expansion to other projects, the Midwana and Wulkuma principles I've used with projects that Joanna and I and Gupta work on. For another ARC project, we've done 2 ARC project applications. The first one we missed out by hair on your teeth. And we've just put in the rejoinder for the next one. We should hear about that shortly, shouldn't we?
Yes, end of October.
So fingers crossed, touch wood, all that stuff. But what we've done is we've been, Gupta, Ruth, Joanna and myself have been working on the Plant Biosecurity Cooperative Research Centre. We're building resilience in Indigenous communities through engagement. And we've used the metaphor of the cycad again, from this time from Galawinku and our area, to combine it with Maori Karakaberry, and we've pulled out the principles. I think we've got 8 principles that really highlight the significance of that cross-cultural boundaries. What did we say? Cross-Tasman seas. And now we're trying to see how that's going to be explored and presented to key stakeholders in plant biosecurity, to scientists. And yes, it is very interesting. And it's going to be a challenge. So we've put in some strategies, and this is that filtering process again, to make sure that we've got Indigenous people from around Australia, New Zealand and Indonesia involved in the project to help refine that whole process and through different forums. And then we're going to have a industry stakeholder group that will champion the model for us within their own industry areas, like the Cherry Pickers Association, sugarcane, tea tree growers, banana growers, mango growers, so that they will champion those back in. And we're going to attend the Science Exchange conference at the end of this month. End of this month? Next month. To meet with those people to talk about how we're going to do that. So that's the impact of the PhD coming through to what I'm currently doing. And now this is like post Midwana, Wulkuma. And it's really been quite a journey. And to have the uptake into projects now, the scientists and that looking at it is really exciting. And I've used the Midwana and Wulkuma of philosophy also with the FRDC project, working with Warrawee people, and using it within the voluntary work that I do. And I've just got this project, and no doubt I'll be using it in that as well. And there's some other projects. I've got one with Heather on ageing, and we've started that process already, and another one with telehealth. So it's been very interesting and useful. So there we go. This is the family doing some language work here and working. So it's my daughter's idea about getting a lot of that information up onto a smartphone app for our language. Yeah. So, and that's still being developed and worked on. And there's some of the family members in here, in this room, working on that at a workshop about how to develop that and continue to apply for funds. Not a lot of interest in Indigenous languages, so you can only get little buckets of money for that one. But here's our deadly plant biosecurity model for scientists. So the traditional CICAD process is there, and the 8 principles, and the community engagement process, and the visual icons of what actually the process is. And that's a lot of hard work from what I do. And this is that very scientific?
Yeah. Scientists need to learn how to engage.
But these are Kathy Gupta-Jaka's descriptions in Warramurri language about the 8 steps. And it's all very multi-layered and integrated and overlapping. So that's what that's supposed to represent. Because we really wanted to capture the way that Indigenous people engage with things, and not just let the scientists say, no, we want these into these little compartments. The scientists love compartments. And so that was something that Joanna and Joanna Johns came up with. I think ours was a bit very social sciencey, wasn't it, when we sent it over to New Zealand?
Beautiful and organic, like it was a pathway to understanding visual, and then they came back with this format.
Yeah. So we said, oh no, we can't have that. We need to add these things. So we ended up with this as a product, and that is what we're going to sell to the scientists at the Science Exchange and the stakeholders in industry. So that's going to be the challenge. So getting the story right is something that I think we all need to try and do. And the way that we can do that is to work together. And so that's all the acknowledgements. And this is sort of a metaphoric thing about the lower. So we can make lower from the cycad nuts available. We can make it from wild rice grass grains, or we can make it from rice, or we can make it from almonds, we can make it from anything. So it's quite flexible in the way that we do things. And it's there to share and bring people together. And so this was at the end of the meeting, and everybody said, instead of having a little forum like we have had for the last few days, and this was the first forum that I had, they said, we want lots of people and lots of ceremonies here. And I went, oh my God, how the hell am I going to organise that? This was hard luck. That was like herding cats. So it was good that that's what they want. And so I'm working towards organising something like a launch for the website, and possibly a short little booklet to go with that for next year. as an outcome for the ARC project. And they're the bosses, Mum Yongi and Jenny, Auntie Jenny, and that's a farewell ceremony. Now these people here, Debbie and Linda and Alan, they've been working with Aboriginal people for all their career. That's what they built their careers on. And this was the first time that they'd been given a proper farewell ceremony. And we painted them up, and that was the first time that Debbie had ever been painted up. And Will was just beside himself, and it was such a good send-off. And the men, the Wanga men, pulled the didge, and Mana Collins sang the songs to farewell them. It was really, really quite touching for them to have that done. And it was moving for us, and that was Mum Yongi's idea to have that done, to show, she wanted to show her respect for them for what they've done for our ceremonies and for our languages. And I haven't seen too many Aboriginal people do that for researchers. So that's my acknowledgements and my So are there any questions?